Welcome to video number 2 on fixing up this John Deere 317. I am still waiting on quite a few parts to get delivered. So in the meantime, I'm going to do as much as I can with the rest of the machine. So I'm going to be doing some stuff to the plow, to the rear hitch, looking at some more wiring and cleaning the machine up. So let's get to it. Out of curiosity, I want to take this plow off just so then I know how to do it. Looking at this, it looks like John Deere actually made a pretty easy looking system to disconnect things. So I'm going to disconnect these hydraulic hoses. Some of these hoses need replaced, but I'm not doing that yet. I'll probably end up just waiting until one of them blows out. Cool. This will give me a good chance to clean the front of the machine up, front of the engine there, get this plow all cleaned up. So one of the reasons that I decided to start cleaning this is it'd give me a chance to look at this thing. Both of these cylinders are pretty beat up on the ends. I can't really tell if they're bent or not. They look bent to me, but it might just be a optical illusion type thing. But this cylinder that angles the plow, the bolt here and the bolt up here, neither one of them had nuts on them. They were literally just jammed in there, and gravity keeps them down. So there's technically nothing really holding these bolts in. Once there's pressure on these again, then they won't come out very easy. This bolt here is bent pretty bad, which kind of helps keep it in there. This fitting here is loose. I am using this stuff. It's engine degreaser from the same company that makes PB Blaster, penetrating spray. I've never used this before, but it's hilarious because it looks like diesel, it smells like diesel, and it cleans like diesel. And you probably can't tell, but this is red, just like off-road diesel, which is kind of funny. But it's gnarly stuff. It's slippery. It's all over everything. If I fired up my heater right now, this whole place would go up in flames. But just been using this to clean it, so eventually I'll get it looking pretty good. I do think I should probably start ordering some hoses because these are pretty bad. I don't know how much life they have left in them, and I guess this isn't a huge machine, so it's not a big deal if one of these blows out. But it's always a pain though if your lift cylinder blows out, and then you know you have to go get a chain and you have to pull your plow up, otherwise you can't move it or whatever. But I'm gonna keep cleaning this thing. I will say though, I'm gonna get some more of this stuff. This stuff is awesome. It really is. So keep that in mind if you're looking for good degreaser, good cleaner, tractors, trucks, whatever. This stuff is awesome. Anyway, I'm gonna take the seat off. I might order a new seat. I just haven't decided yet. I'm gonna take that off and take this hitch off. I really don't think I'm gonna need that. Kinda looks homemade. I keep banging my shins on this, so I'm going to take this off for now. Oh yeah, that's not right. That didn't take much. All right, just for fun, I'm gonna see if these light up. One of these is a ground and the other is a hot wire. I'm not sure which one is what. Got a 12-volt battery here. Okay. Woo! That might be the wrong way. She's smoking. Well, that's the only one that did anything. This is busted. So I don't know if the sockets are bad or if the bulbs are bad, which I'm guessing this bulb doesn't look that bad. Try this again. That actually looks halfway decent. That other one was smoking. I wonder why. So that socket works and that bulb works. So I'm guessing that these other ones either don't work or these terribly crappy and cheap connectors failed, or somewhere inside of this electrical tape, something came apart. Like that's barely even hanging on, and that's the one that actually works. Look at that. I guess maybe before looking into trying to salvage these sockets, maybe I should just see if you can order these. Because maybe I could order some and get some new bulbs and then redo all the wiring. Like I said, it doesn't necessarily need to have lights on it, but I guess it doesn't hurt, especially for resale value. But I would rather put a really good pair of off-road lights on that are 1,000 times brighter anyway, and you can adjust them, as opposed to the headlights. Anyway, that's fun. Just thought I'd see what it does. That's pretty cool. John Deere did a good job with that. This gas tank stinks so bad. I think I'm gonna probably drain the gas tank. I don't want to run any junk through the carburetor or continue to run any junk through it. Alright. Put these back. These are gonna rattle, so I gotta put some washers on. Hate it when things rattle. Cool. So this wiring is driving me nuts. Pretty much like the rest of the machine, the wiring's terrible. There's a million connectors. Nothing is secured properly. And then obviously you can see it looks tacky, and I'm gonna take this wiring out because I don't care about the lights at this time. But I am gonna leave, you know, enough wire that I can wire these back up if need be. This one here is broken, so that might need to be replaced, but I have a hunch that this wire will pull all the way through now since I clipped it. Cut it right there. Here's all that wiring. Look at all these connectors. That's ridiculous. How are you ever supposed to figure out where connection is failing if you have 5 or 6 connections on one line or on one wire? So I got a couple parts in the mail that I can install, and then I decided I'm going to try to take this fender off. That way I have access to everything underneath. Not only do I want to clean it up a little bit, but I want to see if there's anything that needs fixed and possibly even run some wires underneath of there. That way when I decide to wire up these lights, they're already there. Spark plug came out of the box. And this here is the air filter. I mean, it looks right. All right, I found it. I put this air cleaner in my ultrasonic cleaner and it got really hot, so it actually made all the paint fall off. But at least it's clean, I guess. Hopefully that breathes all right. Hopefully the filter's not too bad. I doubt this thing will start up, but out of curiosity, I just want to see if it breathes good enough. Put that filter on there, so. Oh, that was okay, whatever. Thing runs good now, and I haven't even put the new spark plugs in yet. All right, so the other day when I was working on this, I pulled one of the plugs. Actually, I did both of them and looked at them. Even though it starts okay and it runs fine and everything, I still want to replace these spark plugs. They did look like they had some buildup on them, and these are so cheap anyways. I mean, why not? Just replace them and be done with it. In case you're wondering, I believe this is a K17 Kohler, 17 horse. That's the spark plug number that I ordered. It's a Champion Copper Plus plug RV17YC, which there's a bunch of different plugs you can get for this, or different brands, I mean, but I went with Champion because they're tried and true, so they were cheap. All the parts I ordered for this were all pretty cheap, actually. Shouldn't take much because I already loosened it once before. Yep. Now my GoPro doesn't focus very well up close, but that's what that looks like. Now honestly, I could clean that up and it would probably be okay. And I'm not gonna throw these plugs. I'm gonna keep them, I guess because I'm a pack rat. I don't know, I'm just in case I'm gonna keep them. But they do have some carbon buildup on them. They're fouled a little bit. Now, I looked on a John Deere garden tractor forum and everybody said that the plug gap is 0.25. So out of curiosity, geez, this plug gap's 0.35 and everybody online says 0.25. So I wonder what kind of performance problem that could cause, which hopefully the people on the online were correct. Got my little gap tool from Champion. It's vintage. This one is 0.32. So 0.32 is higher than what it's supposed to be set at, but lower than what they were set at. So I'm just gonna leave it. I'm just gonna see what happens. I don't want to move that little electrode or whatever around too much because then they get weak. You're kind of just supposed to set it and be done with it. Okay. Same thing over here. Yeah, this one's worse. I know you can't see that probably, but I wonder what the gap is on this. The other one was 035. This one is about 038. Let's see what this new one is. Same thing as the other one, it's about 032. So I'm just gonna leave it. Sweet. Not bad. A little smoky. I will say for this engine being rebuilt, it sure smokes a lot, but hopefully that doesn't mean anything grave for its future. Hopefully it stays running good for a long time, but I can deal with a little bit of smoke. I just don't want it to be a bigger problem than what it looks like. Okay, so we got the air filter on there, new plugs. Now I'm actually gonna take this green fender off and take a look underneath of that. I mean, I already have the seat off, and I got the little deck adjustment thing taken off because it was rattling, and I didn't need it on there because I'm not ever going to put a mowing deck on this. I saved the parts, but I don't need it on there. I actually want access to that gas tank too because I want to empty it and flush it because it smells horrid. And if it's pulling all that crap through the fuel system, I don't want the engine to get, or the carburetor, I guess, to get all that junk in it. So I'm gonna take this off. All right, so this is a common problem. I've had this happen to me many times where a carriage bolt, the metal around the little square part of the carriage bolt gets worn down, and so when you try to take a nut off of there, it just spins. Typically what I do, if that's the case, is I use a pair of vice grips. If you can get the carriage bolt loose enough that the head comes up a little bit so you have somewhere to bite onto, then it's much easier. Never fails. It's always one bolt that doesn't want to come out. Every single time. All of these other bolts came out just fine, except for that one. Thankfully, I already played around with these knobs, so I know this will come loose, which is good. So really, there shouldn't be anything holding this down. Gather all the hardware. I'm gonna put those back in so I don't lose them. When I put this seat springs back on, I got to do the back ones first, and then you slide the whole thing back and do the fronts. That might not make sense now, but I'll be sure to show it. Take that off. I think that's it. I tried doing this with a John Deere 212 and I was not successful. So looks like this one will be alright. Sweet. Oh yeah. It's dirty. Gas tank smells horrendous. I think the only thing that keeps this tank in is these metal pieces, and then obviously when you put the fenders back on, keeps it all together, which is fine. I don't know if you can see that. Here's a spare key. That's funny. Well, I guess that's why you take stuff apart. Find spares. Here's a little pin. Obviously a bunch of debris. Pretty greasy. This will give me a really good chance to clean this thing up and take a look at everything. John Deere truly, I think, in my opinion, they're a lot easier to work on than I thought they would be. I used to believe that I was very, very good at working on Sears 10XL garden tractors. These are way easier to work on than those. Not to mention they're heavier duty and stuff, and engineered by John Deere. But all right, well, let's get this gas tank out. Yeah, and the line that went from the fuel shut off elbow all the way up to the engine didn't even have a clip on it. It literally just fell out. I'm gonna set this outside. See, that's why you take stuff apart. I could have been using this machine, driving around and whatnot, bouncing, and then this could have came undone. Since this, not only does this hose suck, but there's no clamp on it. Could have just fell right off. All right, so I was just about to start cleaning, and I was wiping up the fuel that spilled on the ground. And while I was doing that, I looked over, and I don't know if my GoPro is going to show that very well, but this axle housing is cracked. This light might be too bright and it's not going to focus, but anyway, this cracked right down here. And to be honest with you, I think I did it, because when I brought this machine home, the first time that I unloaded it off of the trailer after I bought it, I have video of it too, I'll show it to you. As I was backing up, the drive lever got stuck and I couldn't get it to stop. And then the steering had so much play in it that I couldn't even turn the wheels properly. So I ended up driving this thing off the back of my trailer. It just went straight off the back of the trailer and landed on the ground. It was really rough. And I bet when that happened, this cracked. It makes perfect sense. That's why you take stuff apart and look at it and not just call it good. And that might be me overdoing things by ripping stuff apart and doing things that aren't totally necessary, but this is why I do that. I would have never seen that crack with that fender being on there, because that's a hard place to look at. That's why I clean everything, because you get a good look at everything on a machine. I can weld this, but I'm gonna obviously clean this thing up first, that way I don't start a fire. But I'll have to weld that, and I can't weld too deep because I don't want to weld the axle. I just got to weld the outside a little bit, and then I'll turn the wheel, make sure the axle's free, and then I think it should be good. Here is the underside of the fender. Pretty dirty, and it's funny because somebody taped these on there, and even though that might look stupid, it's actually pretty smart because they're a pain. So I literally just got a shipment of parts. This has got to be the gas cap. Yep. Now this one has a float on it. I don't know how accurate that'll be. I really don't care about the float. I just care that this is a new gas cap that's not cracked and will seal and everything, but nice and clean. Hopefully that fits. And then these are my new tie rod ends. These are extremely important. This is like the #1 thing I've been waiting on. Ironically, now I have the other stuff I'm working on, so these will have to wait. All right, so I've just been cleaning up the rear end here. Like I said, this axle housing is cracked. Since I have this thing off the ground right now and the rear tires aren't on it and there's no pressure on it, the crack actually closed. You probably can't even see that. When I pull on it, the crack opens underneath. So it's obviously not good to have any weight on it. So hopefully I didn't break this driving it off the back of my trailer the first day I got it home, or maybe even putting that my car trailer on it and pulling it out. I mean, that could have been too heavy and broke it. I don't know. But either way, I got to weld that. Got the rear end out. I'm going to clean this thing up first. Then I'm going to flip it upside down, take a look at what I need to weld. Looks like I'm going to have to order a new gasket for this between here and the hydraulic thing there. Something broke off. Uh-oh. The bolt actually snapped, which is why I had a hard time getting them to separate. So thankfully it's out, not stuck in there. So all I have to do really is find one of these bolts, which hopefully it's something I can find and won't have to special order. So I wanted to point out before I weld this thing that I actually had originally thought that the housing was cracked. And what's actually cracked is the weld that's between the housing and this support steel right here. It's not actually the housing that's cracked. And I was wondering, because this thing never leaked on the ground, I was confused. I'm like, if this axle housing was cracked, it would be leaking. And it had fluid in it, so it's not like it was actually cracked and just had no fluid. It literally, this axle housing is fine. It's the weld right here where it's welded onto the kind of the frame components there. That's what cracked. So that needs to be welded anyways. That's not something, even if I knew that at the beginning, this still needs to be welded. And I definitely did not want to weld that while it was on the tractor. This whole inside of my shop here is so flammable, it's not even funny. So I kind of had to take this out anyway, even though it was a lot of work. So I'm going to take this thing outside, get it prepped, get it welded. I got to make a new gasket for this since I destroyed the one that was on there. I also got some, some sealant that I can add on there. Hopefully it won't leak. Got to put all this stuff back together. So let's get this thing outside, get it welded. See, that's why I didn't do this in the shop. So it's not pretty, but I welded this the best that I could. Unfortunately, I had issues with my new titanium MiG 140. So I had to break out the old Art Captain MiG 130 to finish it up. But I did take a grinder, kind of went over it. And while I was welding this, I kept turning the hub here to make sure the axle was free. I was afraid I might melt through that casing and then actually weld the axle to the casing, which in that case, that would have been really bad. So thankfully I didn't do that. Before I put this back into the tractor, I have to make my own gasket here. Now I know you can buy the gasket for this, but not only did I have kind of a hard time finding one, but I don't want to wait for it to get delivered and I don't want to overpay. So I paid $9 for this huge 26-inch by 10-inch by 1/32 of an inch thick gasket sheet. So you can actually just make your own. And I'm gonna do my best, but to make sure it definitely doesn't leak, I got some Permatex Ultra Black gasket maker, and this is oil resistant. So should be able to seal this thing off so no hydraulic oil leaks out. But I got a piece of paper here. I'm gonna see if I can't trace this out and then kind of cut it out by hand. I think that should be enough. The important part here is just to get the original shape of that gasket. That's what's important, and that's the little oil port there, and then these two are where the bolts go through. This stuff off to the side here doesn't matter because the original gasket did not go for those holes. So it's just these three that matter. We got maybe 1/4 of an inch underneath that oil thing. So I'll just kind of eyeball it. And then, you know, we got maybe 3/4 of an inch out from the main hole. Pretty much right up to that next side hole, so like that. Same thing up top. Literally like 1/8 of an inch from the... So literally I'm just gonna cut that out. And then obviously cut that as well. Not bad. Basically just that bottom part needs to be able to circulate oil, which it should. So I think this is good. The hard part is going to be getting this to stay on here and to put this onto that without getting this to move. Okay, so unfortunately I had a couple setbacks. For one, it's incredibly hard to get that homemade gasket to stay put and then put these two pieces together so then the little oil pickup is in the right spot and that those two little nubs are in the correct spot through the gasket. So I kept messing the gasket up. And aside from that giving me problems, I didn't know this, but my frame here has some like spring memory to it. So since there's nothing back here, the frame pulled closer together. So I couldn't even get the back part inside of the frame like it's supposed to be. And my wife was trying to push these apart for me, but it's too much. So I have to come up with something here that's gonna spread these apart for me while I put this back in there. So kind of a pain, something I didn't even expect, honestly. Now, the other night, I went inside and was watching YouTube videos about people rebuilding, you know, these hydro pumps and rear ends and everything in these 300 series John Deeres. Everybody seems to just remove the hydro pump together. So in my case, I split them, and honestly, if I would have just left them together, it really wouldn't have been that much extra work to get the whole assembly out, weld it like I did, and then throw it back in. So I could have skipped the whole making the gasket thing and just pulled it all out at once. I wasn't thinking. This little drive shaft here, basically the spline, it just fits right on the output shaft of the engine. Yeah, it's, in my opinion, I think it'd be easier just to take it all out together as one unit instead of doing what I did. Anyway, I got this together. It's kind of a ticking time bomb with that sealant on there, and it was drying, so I had to get these pieces together. I got them put together. I got all the bolts in here tightened down. Now, earlier in the video, I had this bolt actually snapped when I was removing it, and I went to Menards today to try and find one like this. Now, obviously, since threading goes, you know, through 2/3 of the bolt and then it's smooth the rest of the way, that's a specialty bolt, so it's not normal. I actually grabbed these, but I kind of knew in store that there was not going to be enough threading on here. The top bolts here are the ones that have a lot of thread on them because they thread through this piece here and then come out the other side, and then you put a nut on. The bottom ones didn't have much threading in them because they only thread in, you know, 3/4 of an inch or whatever into the rear end housing. So whatever I had to use had to have enough threading on it. So what I did, I just got a carriage bolt. Now, carriage bolts have the little square piece right there that, you know, a wrench can bite onto if need be. It's 3/8 if you're wondering, 3/8 of an inch. That's how big that square part is. But before I went to Menards, I took these, stuck it into my thread checker, and what I had was 3/8 16 course. So I knew what thread I needed before I even went to get new bolts. And then I just got one that was long enough. Now, the bolt that came out of this thing was 5.5, but I got 6-inch carriage bolts because I wanted to leave an extra 1/2 inch at the end for where the weird carriage end would be sticking out. And my plan worked just fine. So that, it looks funny, it looks tacky, I know. I really wish I could have just used a hex, but that's the way it goes. If you stick a real skinny 3/8 wrench in there, like a mechanic's wrench or whatever those little skinny ones are called, it'll grip on that, and then you can remove that nut, no problem. So, but anyway, I got all 4 of those bolts in, so these two are connected together. I put this little piece of sheet metal in there before I tightened them down because it's kind of a pain to get out. I'm hoping I didn't make a mistake because I can't remember if this goes up against the bottom of the frame or if it goes over the top. So hopefully it's bottom of the frame. All right, well, I finally got this thing in there. My wife had to help me. It was a major pain trying to get this in there. like I said earlier, when it comes to John Deere, I really don't know what I'm doing. So everything I've been doing it in the wrong order, or the opposite of what I should be doing. Like for instance, putting this whole assembly in there with that shaft on there. I had a heck of a time trying to get that to hook up to the output shaft on the engine. So what I ended up doing is pounding that roll pin or whatever out of there, and I put the drive shaft on the output shaft first, and then hooked it up right down there, and then jacked up the back part and got the holes lined up. I used a spud wrench there. So yeah, and then the whole floor, this whole entire floor is just full of hydraulic oil that I've been dragging around, so it's slippery. Just not a good setup. Alright, so I think I have enough fluid in the system. I probably need to run it to get it to circulate anyway. I forgot that I don't have the fuel tank on there, so I mocked this up, and hopefully it works. Well, that's not cool. Can't have that. That hose is hitting on that drive shaft. Sweet. Try this again.